till I came here.
House of the Dead. It's a cool game. Not as fun as it used to be back in the arcade, but it'll do. Some pretty important things to point out ahead of time. It's rough. It was originally an arcade game. I remember, what were those guns called? I totally forgot. They had a specific name, but the guns that could, for the screens on the arcade cabinets, which you can still technically use if you buy them somewhere. I don't feel like they're cheap though, and the technology just isn't really there. I don't know, there's like a weird way to do it or something. There's some options. There's that, which is the best case scenario. It's as good as it can get, but it's a different setup. It's kind of like having like a racing wheel or like a airplane hot ass HOTAS. Like, you gotta go out of your way for something like that, and that may or may not be worth it for most people. It's gonna be like a handful of people who would even bother to. Gotta probably be into retro gaming and find out where to even get them and this whole thing. Or I played this on PlayStation, so you can get the Move controllers. The ones with the little balls on them, the LED color balls. But once again, you're kind of having to go out of your way to get those. And I don't feel like they're that expensive. And obviously you gotta set them up, and you might even need a camera with it. I don't know. Like a PlayStation camera. I played this on PlayStation, so the controller thing was a weird. So I just used a regular controller, a standard controller, and it works, but it's really weird. I mean, I beat the game, I got through it with that, but like, it just, whatever experience this game could have, it's just not the same with a regular controller. Which is unfortunate, but I think it's one of those things where even if you don't have any of that stuff, get the game, play it how you can. If it ever comes up or you want to go out of your way to get these better methods of playing the game, there's always that option down the line. So it's like, hey, I played it the way it did, now maybe one day that'll change, I don't know, and I can always just, I have the game, I can play it whenever. It just wasn't the same though. Like, I think that was the funnest part of playing a game like this. It's a lot like Carnival, that sniper game back in the day. You know, arcades are so obsolete now that I'm glad this came out almost because of that, because we get to have that kind of arcade vibe here at home, but because I played this back in the day at the malls and stuff, and there was actually arcades around, and even though there's still arcades around somewhat nowadays, it's not really common, or you probably have to go to the most like weirdest obscure place to do it. But it was still fun regardless, like the vibes, it was still enjoyable. A lot of nostalgia, memories. I mean, I haven't played this since I was a kid. So it's been about 10 plus-ish years, so there's that. It's weird, when I found this game, I didn't even know it existed or it came out until I was either looking around on the sale page or like you kind of have to dig for it and randomly find it because I didn't even know it was a thing. Like it's definitely not one of those games that were very commercialized, AAA quality. You get a bunch of ads on it and commercials, and I had no idea. I'm glad I found it. Base price is kind of... It's not cheap, but if you can find it on sale, it's not too bad. It's affordable. Yeah, the biggest thing was the controller. Even I had to do some research on, like, you know, is there a... Because even standard controllers, they do have, like... You know, there's the D-pad, there's... You can move it around, the motion sensor, all these things, but it's still just... It still doesn't really work. So what I did, you have to mess around with the settings quite a bit, just kind of use your left stick to move the reticle and press X or whatever for shooting, circle for reload. It was weird though, even when I was getting this footage recently, I was using the R2 trigger and it messed everything up. Like it automatically switched to the motion thing and it wasn't working well at all. So it really kind of messed up the middle of trying to get some footage out of it. I had to close out and come back in basically. Or no, I was pressing buttons and I fixed it somehow. I don't know how. So yeah, there's some control issues, there's controller issues. It's one of those things where you're only gonna get it if you played it before. You have more incentive to get it if you get the right controllers, but other than that, it's kind of tough to justify getting it because, you know, it is House of the Dead, it's a brand name that I know and love, and I love the movie, The House of the Dead. I love zombies, horror games. So it's kind of a no-brainer for me. I did sit on it for a while because I was like, well, do I really want to get it? Even though I'm not, like, prepared for it. Like, if I had at least had the Move controllers, I would have been a little happier, but I just think at the time I couldn't get them, or I didn't feel like spending the money or whatever it was. But like even Move controllers are kind of old now. They're not exactly brand new concepts. Although I do think this is on Switch as well, if I remember correctly. So you can use the controllers in that way, but it's kind of a similar problem where I think it's called a light gun. I think that's what it was called. Unless you have a gun, it's just not cool, the whole, like, the action of, like, reloading off screen. Reload! Because even though the Switch kind of caters more to those kind of controls, I still don't remember anyone saying it was really any better. I mean, it's just, like, an optional thing at this point again. But whether it's Switch or PlayStation or whatever else it's on, it's a playable game regardless, and I think that's kind of the best thing to get out of it. The situation is because it's like if you want to play it that badly, you'll play it. You'll get it. You'll play it if you like the franchise enough. But if not, you know, like if I didn't know what House of the Dead was, and I didn't grow up when I did in the arcades and stuff, I'd look at this game and be like, it's cool, it's different. It's unique and distinctive from most other games. It's a rail shooter. There's not many of those, and the ones that there are, they're not really that good. Like House of the Dead, I think, is the best rail shooter you can ever possibly get your hands on. Because that's exactly what it does. It knows what it, even all these years later, coming out with this remake, they still stuck very true to what it is that they started with, and the whole that really immersive, like first person, you know, zombies in your face, and it was really cool. Like, out of all the games I've played in the last 4 years, I've never played anything like this. Usually games like this I stay away from because they just look kind of sus. You know, we got VR games nowadays and all these kind of different ways to play games, but you know, things like this was one of the first coolest things around, the whole light gun thing. And I know you back in the day you can get controllers and plug those in with the guns, and it was a very experimental time in gaming, and I think that's what made it fun. And there's even, you know, hitbox fight sticks for fighting games. There's so many different types of controllers out there, but you really can't go wrong with just a standard controller, because at least that way you can play just about anything. Maybe not the way that it's designed to specifically, or native to its kind of thing, but it works. Like, playing flying games can be kind of weird. Racing, it's definitely fine. It works just fine, but you know, you don't really look at it as the whole, like, if I had an actual wheel or an actual flight stick or an actual hitbox or an actual light gun. Oh well, cutscenes are cool.
Rogan, it's you.
Sophie!
Yeah, there's a little bit of a story. It all kind of flew by so quick that I think it was just some guy rescuing some girl. I don't know. Taking down the big bad guy. Wasn't much there, but that's what makes these games so charming, is because, you know, this is pure gameplay. But it's cool how they at least make the effort to put in a story, whether it's good or not. But it's definitely what makes the game flow and keep it going, and you're interested, you want to see it kind of follow through. I do remember House of the Dead 2 back in the day as well. I want to say that might have been the more fun one. If they made a remake of that could be kind of cool too. I think they were just kind of doing this and see where it went, and if it did well, maybe they're gonna do another one. I kind of doubt it though, because this is a very gimmicky game. You can't really play it as a traditional game that you would most likely be playing otherwise. So it's kind of tough. It's fun though for like a day. It's a nice game to just put on for a day and try out. And so what's cool is there's so many games out there, but I feel like most people kind of stick to the same things that they know and love, or they may or may not reach out too much to other things that are out there, especially when we're talking like indie games, because so many different games can be so different. But this is definitely one of those games that it's like, well, if you like horror, if you like zombies, if you like games, there you go. If you like the fancy controllers and going out of your way to play something in a cool way, even better. Yeah, I don't know. It's fun, but it's a remake. it's the whole, everyone's very, it's just a very hit and miss game, like literally. It's not like as simple as it used to be. It's more complicated, and what's tough about this remake, especially the way that they've done it, is it's kind of supposed to be the seamless transition over to modern graphics, modern controls. It's kind of rough. Definitely took me a minute to kind of get into the groove and to learn, get the settings where I want it to be. The settings are pretty intuitive too. You can, you know, you're thinking sensitivity, you're thinking the audio, all kinds of options, which is nice. For a game like this, you kind of need that. Yeah, I don't know, it's just like a fun little weird good time. You can beat it in like an hour. I mean, it's kind of, I just played on normal at first and I died a few times, but you get back up, you do it over again. There's replayability. You play on easy, you can get it done in like a half hour. But obviously there is like, what was it, hard mode as well, and arcade mode, and it can be very challenging. And there's also, what I missed a lot at first too is like there's barrels everywhere, and you really gotta keep your eyes peeled, because if, like, I just wanted to beat the game. I just wanted to play for fun and have a good time, enjoy it, casual. But you do get that sense of like high score. You think back in the day, arcades. There's all kinds of ways, little ways. There's like secrets, and I don't know. It's things you don't really think about or that bothers you until it happens. Like normally I don't care about any of that stuff, and for some reason with this game it was kind of like, it'd be cool to play it again. It'd be cool to like do better and get a better score and shoot all the things and get headshots and, you know, all those things. Try the different modes. There's like a, there's quite a bit to how you want to play it. But obviously, like, it was fun and it was cool, but I'm probably not gonna like do that anytime soon, get back into the game that way. The problem with that, which I'm glad, it's cool that they did that, they put in extra stuff like that, but the issue is when you're just using a controller, you're not really incentivized to kind of go that extra mile anyway. So unless you have a fancy, cool, fun way to play it, there's just... And then we're thinking back to the price point and all these things, it's like, is it worth it? And that's tough, because it's definitely not in like the most broad, open, basic, general ways, but because I'm a sucker and I'm biased towards what this game is, that is the only reason why I got it. If this was House of the Undead, I wouldn't give a shit. You know, like a Village of the Damned kind of thing, right? Like, I just wouldn't care. So, because games like this, they have a cult following. Like, for those who know, they know. And I know. So, that's what got me to get it and play it, and I don't regret it. I hate that it kind of could have been like a more fun type of thing to do and mess around with, but obviously it's kind of a luxury when you got all the consoles, you got all the different controllers, you got, you know, just the multiple platforms, and it's not cheap. So not only is it worth it asking yourself, like, is it worth getting the game? But then you're asking on top of that, is it worth getting all this other stuff too? And that's something that someone's gonna have to kind of decide on their own and be like, well, I like it enough, the game enough, to go that far. For me, I'm kind of that baseline, but if I did like it more, I would have exactly done that. I would have gone out of my way to get those other things, but... So unfortunately, like, I love it and hate it. It's I don't know, it's whatever. The gameplay is good.
Reload!
say the gameplay is good. I don't want to give it too much credit. It was bearable. It was doable. It was just kind of messy though. Like, you're kind of shooting all over the place. There are ways to basically not die and to not have to restart all the time, and you can even turn the reloading when he says reload, reload, reload. You can even turn that off, which is kind of funny. Cause my thing, everyone's gonna play it differently. My thing was, I want to make this as easy as possible, or at least challenging enough to like not make it too easy. But like, it's such a rough game, and the way that it's presented using the controller, blah blah blah. You know, I didn't want this guy saying reload in my ears all day. Found a good sensitivity. It's probably the most important thing. A lot of sliders to work with, a lot of sliding scales. But just any sort of little way to make this game just that much more better to, considering the circumstances, just better to play. Because I knew going in, like, I knew I wasn't gonna... It really bothered me not having these controllers. It's just not ideal at all. So I was really forced to kind of just enjoy it as much as possible, which wasn't easy, because... But I also look at it as like, hey, it's just another game, you know. Play it, get it, move on, whatever, it's fine. But it's weird though, because I feel like it's one of those things you never really forget, like, oh, it could have been different, or I could have played it this other way, and it just bugs me. Life goes on though, huh? Good thing is, like, well, you know, 90% of other games, I can play those perfectly fine, the way that they were intended to. But it's just weird, because, like, why did they come out with this again? And why did they... First of all, there's probably like 5 people that bought the damn thing. So there's that. It's just a weird time to, like, come out with this, because they knew that no one was going to be prepared for it at all. Like, I don't know what they were hoping to kind of achieve here. Is just bring the franchise back to life, or what was the motive here? Because I have no idea. You know, were they gonna come out with another House of the Dead movie sequel? That would make sense. Like, have something to kind of benefit another thing to help the series out. I don't know. Can't be bothered to really look into it, but I'm curious. I think it is interesting that they even bother to, you know, because obviously it's very graphically updated. There's a next-gen version of it. Was it only next-gen? I don't remember, but I doubt it. Very smooth, very... The game's not long, but depending on how you play, you know, you can make it as long as you want, I guess, but... I don't know, it's just like a cool little, like... There's not a lot of game in there. And if you're rushing through it, that's exactly what's going to happen, but... They kind of put just enough of a little cool, interesting, fun experience. But beyond that, I mean, there's not much there. Yeah, it could be a good game to play for a spooky season. It could be something to play with a friend. Like, if they're watching you, or can take turns with it if you have, like, the light guns. Yeah, I don't know. But it makes you wonder, though, like, okay, what if they came out with Time Crisis, or, like, Because usually those old arcade games, if they ever were to come out for like a console platform, they'll either be completely redesigned or something. But it's so interesting here how they went straight from exactly what it used to be to exactly what it is now. They didn't bother to like even like if they made House of the Dead but like a fully playable character, you can walk around, do this and that, that could have been cool too. The only issue is now that they're competing with so many other zombie games, Resident Evil, that I think even if they did go that route, which wouldn't have made too much sense anyway, but like it just would have been another generic zombie game. Because this game is distinctive in its creature design and enemies and all those things, I guess, but what makes this game good is its UI, its interface. So I can just imagine the conversation that are like, hey, you know what sounds good? Let's remake House of the Dead again. Okay. And let's just like upscale it the fuck up and basically almost not do anything else to it. Make it playable for modern consoles and just whip it out there. It's like they were leaving a free dollar like on the street and seeing who's gonna grab it. Like like, oh, 20 people got it, cool. Like, I don't know. Obviously it's an exaggeration, like there's probably plenty more, it probably got obviously many more sales than that, but it's one of those games you want to root for and support because, you know, I think it was very generous and very thoughtful and kind of them to kind of give us this back. It was such a nice nod to like the old days, and I don't know. You know, they weren't trying to like they didn't remake the game completely to where it was just kind of this weird thing. A lot of remakes actually are pretty guilty of doing that. But other than like the only downsides that come to remakes regardless, like that is here. But they still somehow found a way to keep it very original. It's kind of trippy. And it's one of those things, like you can even watch game footage and gameplay and streams and videos, but it's one of those things you don't really get comprehend unless you actually play it. Which is most games, to be fair, but this game specifically, like it's so out there, and you know, it's doing its thing, and definitely worth it. Cause like, if you can afford it and all these things, that's kind of all it can become for most people. Is just, oh, it's just another game. Like it probably wouldn't be good to get someone's hopes up too much. But just like most games, this has just as many pros and cons, even considering what this is in the first place. This isn't like playing Skyrim or Halo or whatever. This is like a very, you know, there's only a few comparable games out there really that does what this does, and how well those games do it versus this, I don't know, but yeah. It's a decent game. It's a spooky game. I like the vibes, I like the audio design, the atmosphere, the ambience. It's a game. But yeah. House of the Dead.